Just when you thought you were out, the fight world pulls you back in. This is the jaw-dropping showdown fight between two young prospects determined to knock each other's heads off. Not only that, but for these two, both the fighter's reputation and family name is at stake. But who exactly are we referring to? Surely you've guessed by now. That's right, this is the internet-breaking punch-up of none other than Tommy Fury versus Jake Paul. Who? Jake Paul is boxing's new obsession. Some love him, some hate him, and some love to hate him. Just look at Jake Paul here. He certainly seems like a vicious puncher.
Exactly what he wants to do in there. Working behind the cage.
Big right hand that lands.
He's hurt.
Kim is hurt. And now he's down again. And that is it. Jake Paul with a first round destruction.
Snoop Dogg is singing the hymns. He's trying to get out of the ring.
Indeed, you might be forgiven for thinking this man seems somewhat terrifying. Just look at that shredded physique. But the truth is, many in the fight world are unconvinced by Jake Paul's boxing abilities. Some say he has yet to face a real professional boxer, and as such, this fight with Tommy Fury will finally put his name to the test. Just take a look at the stats. Tommy Fury, half-brother of heavyweight world champion Tyson Fury, is a formidable force with 7 wins to his name, 4 by knockout and 3 by decision, against a total of 0 losses. Anyone who steps into the ring with a member of the Fury family knows they are up against a winner. And at 22 years old, this boxer has nowhere to go but up. Plus, at 6 feet, Tommy has plenty of height and reach on his side. Yet both stand with similar boxing experience. Fury is 7-0 with 4 knockouts, and Jake with 4 wins, including 3 devastating knockouts. So despite their differences, there seems an even spread between them. Jake Paul is the younger brother to YouTube celeb turned professional boxer Logan Paul. You must have been living under a rock with your head in the sand if you missed this one. That's right, this was the devastating fight that saw Logan Paul face up to one of the greatest of all time, Floyd Mayweather himself. And how did it end? Much to the surprise of fight fans across the world, this one ended in a draw.
It's crazy. I did the impossible already.
Can you believe it? Logan Paul, although pretty new to the sport of boxing, must have done a fantastic job by managing to land a draw against one of boxing's all-time greatest. After taking Mayweather the distance for 8 excruciating 3-minute rounds, Paul is now continuing his rampage in the fight world. Logan has made it publicly clear that he intends to fight Mike Tyson next. Logan has allegedly said himself very clearly, "I would beat Mike Tyson." It cannot be understated just how shocking this intention is. I mean, Mike Tyson? Seriously? Iron Mike is perhaps one of boxing's all-time biggest villains. Some have questioned how Logan Paul could possibly be so confident about this fight, but then again, who knows? Perhaps he really does stand a chance. But what about Tommy Fury? Well, as we all know, Jake Paul is not the only young boxer with an incredibly successful older brother in the sport. The infamous Fury dynasty needs no introduction, especially when your older brother is the Gypsy King himself, recently crowned heavyweight champion of the world. Many in the fight world widely consider Tyson Fury to be the greatest heavyweight of this generation. It's also clear to see that the Fury DNA runs strong in the young Jedi.
Good shot. Nice right uppercut.
Successful here tonight in his professional boxing debut, Tommy TNT Fury.
No disrespect to any other titles, I'm in this to be a world champion. I'm 19 years old, just turned. I'm in no rush at all, and I'll get there.
That's just warning about punches around the back. Oh, there's another terrific shot. Big right hook, down he went, and I think that might be it. Now he's had enough, as they say, and all over in the first round. Tommy Fury says, yep, I've had fame in Love Island, but I am a fighting man, and this is his return to the ring. Straight away, looking for Binyenda. Big attack from the opening bell, and the right hand puts him down.
That's a good right hand there from Fury.
And the referee says enough is enough. Binyenda, I don't think, through one.
The only thing separating these two is Jake Paul's 2 years of age over Tommy, so it's fair to say this is as even a spread as you're ever likely to come across in professional boxing. Tyson Fury himself seems to agree in his alleged comments. I wouldn't consider it Jake fighting a boxer. It's Jake the reality star turned boxer versus Tommy the reality star turned boxer. But however their journey started, how do these two actually match up in the ring? Just take a look at them both here. Both have incredible physique and conditioning under their belts. Looking at their boxing histories, we can see where all the confidence comes from. Tommy Fury's second professional fight against Callum Ide had a memorable finish. In the first round, and at 19 years old, Fury fended off Ide's early advances and was able to push his opponent back into a corner until a clean body shot looked like the end. But Ide survived the count and was back in action. However, Fury's repeated offense proved that his punches pack power, and Ide conceded during the second and final count. Looking at how this fight was won, many fight fans feel Jake Paul barely stands a chance against these kind of tactics. But perhaps they have underestimated the stamina and power of Jake Paul. Take the Problem Child's pro boxing debut against Ali Ihsan Gibb. The tone was set with a confrontational weigh-in whereby the two had to be separated by security. The grappling continued throughout the one-round fight, but Gibb was knocked down again and again until the referee called it for the hurt Gibb. Just look at the power on this knockout punch here. That's pretty explosive.
Doing there, working behind the chin.
Big right hand that lands.
He's hurt.
Gibb is hurt. And now he's down again. And that is it.
Nate Robinson was next up on Jake Paul's hit list and demonstrated stunning speed and aggression. Paul was on the back foot for once and fought more defensively, doing everything he could to stay out of the corner. But a misstep by Robinson gave Paul the opening he needed to plant a right hand to the back of the head. Despite a consultation with the referee, Robinson insisted on continuing. The gamble would prove fruitless. Paul put him down again with the same move in just the second round. People were quick to dismiss Paul's debut as beginner's luck, but with a devastating second victory under his belt, critics were wondering whether Ben Askren was doomed to be the Problem Child's third knockout. Indeed, fate smiled down on the digital superstar that day. With more than a minute on the clock, a jab and a straight sent the former wrestler Askren crashing down to the canvas. Indeed, the way this fight ended sent shockwaves through the fight world. Many have been starting to wonder, could Jake Paul really be a serious boxing contender? But when it comes to power, perhaps that really is no comparison to some of Tommy Fury's subsequent fights. Fury's second knockout also came early, with Przemysław Emelianenko going down in the first 62 seconds. Fury by name and Fury by nature. He sprang from his corner with a flurry of punches and put his opponent down with a right-hander. Despite the breaks, Emelianenko was unable to throw one serious punch, leaving the referee no choice but to end the onslaughts early.
Right away, going looking for Emelianenko. Big attack from the opening bell on the right.
For his third KO, Fury met an even stronger opponent. This time, Gennady Krzyzewski was able to survive until the second round and was even able to keep Fury on his toes. But Tommy's punches were too heavy too fast, and a right uppercut put an end to the fight once and for all. Just look at this finish.
Super shot that finishes the job, really. He's on his way down after this shot. Great shot there with that right uppercut, well measured. And that's a good performance from...
As if that wasn't enough, gaining a fourth knockout was only a matter of time for the undefeated young Fury. Scott Williams was vicious with formidable swings and evasive footwork. This was perhaps Tommy Fury's most advanced opponent yet, and saw him fend for himself against a higher standard of boxing technique. Despite Williams' boxing intelligence and agility, he was no match for Tommy here. 2 rounds in, and Williams was out of places to run. Tommy's punches were starting to land much more cleanly on his opponent, and it was only a matter of time before Fury detonated this brutal knockout punch here. It's no surprise that Tommy is confident he will likely continue his streak for ending fights early. So far, it's clear that Jake Paul has ferocious power and speed, and many have been surprised at just how far Paul has come in the sport of boxing already. But looking at Tommy Fury's fighting style, it is apparent that Jake Paul will have to seriously shape up to stand a chance on this one. Looking at Paul's most recent fight, this becomes even more apparent. Enter Tyron Woodley. Certainly the oldest and largest opponent Paul had faced, it seemed Tyron's nickname of the Chosen One might signify an end to Paul's winning streak. The duo exchanged stunning combinations. Paul even fell onto the ropes, and they stayed engaged in the corner until the bell rang. Round 5 of 8, and Paul was looking worse for wear, whereas Woodley was composed, in control, and leading the fight. Despite all this, there was no KO in sight. By surviving the 8 rounds, Paul accrued enough points to scrape this 4th consecutive win. Not bad, but hardly the dramatic finish we were all expecting. Another point of note in this fight is that Jake Paul's last 2 opponents were ex-MMA fighters, whereas Fury is on more familiar ground in his experience going toe-to-toe with proven professional boxers at this level. As to be expected with the mischievous internet prankster, Paul has set a condition for the match, tweeting from his account off of a joke Tyson made himself, whereby if Tommy loses, he will be forced to change his last name. Paul suggests that if he is the victor, then Tommy should become known as Tommy Fumbles for a whole year. Alternatively, if it's Tommy who stands victorious over Paul, then he will receive a $500,000 bonus directly from the Logan bank account. Indeed, boxing trainer Sugar Hill Stewart himself has noted Jake Paul's skills despite the boxer's relative inexperience. Whilst at a press release promoting the fight, Stewart remarked that Jake Paul looks to be doing very well in boxing. Stewart was the main trainer during Tyson's own path to world title, so it's strange that Tommy Fury has sworn not to fly back to the US to train with the same man. Instead, Tommy will reside in the UK to rely on Tyson and Father John for his preparation. Still, Fury predicts he will stand victorious in just 2 rounds, while Paul believes he will be the victor in the later end of the match. But what do you think? Is the knockout power in Tommy Fury's DNA simply too strange to be evaded? Or will Jake Paul surprise the world by taking out the Gypsy King's younger brother and finally earning the fight world's respect in this brutal sport of boxing? Stop what you're doing right now and let us know what you think in the comments section below. If you haven't already, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and right-hook that bell icon to keep up to date with future videos. Finally, to see what happens when a real master in MMA goes up against a proven professional boxer, click the link in the description box.